Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading, we're looking at you on a kind of mythological level, like what is in a sense the apotheosis, the highest point of your personal power, your personal presence, all of those sort of things. And the inspiration for doing this is that I just bought from Rockpool Publishing their beautiful new tarot called the Mythos tarot. You can see three of the cards there. We're going to use quite a few cards at the beginning from this deck. It's a very particular type of tarot deck. Well, I mean, it is a tarot deck and you can use it just as a straight tarot deck, but it's got a really ingenious basis to it in that every single card in the deck is aligned to one of the gods or goddesses or characters from the Greek pantheon. And I've always loved Greek and Roman gods because I feel that they really reflect humanity in both our glory and also our moral ambiguity. And we're going to look at a bit of both of that today, because in using this deck, because each card represents that energy, I felt that I could do a reading that we set the scene about if you were kind of one in the pantheon. And in this, doing an amalgamation of a few for you to be you as opposed to any of the individual Greek pantheon that we know about already. What would that be? What is your personal power? What is your personal presence? And then we'll also have a look at what are you encountering in terms of allies, friends, lovers, all that kind of thing, good energy of similar sort of things. Because in the pantheon, you know, some of them were friends and some of them weren't. So, and that's true of life as well. And we'll also look at what are you encountering at that kind of mythic level with, you know, competitors or even enemies or people that are not on your side in some way. And part of the reason I want to do this is that we're dealing here with an issue about power, and we all have personal power. And I always say when we're talking about manifestation or any of those sort of things, that what you need to do, you need to understand your strengths. So this is a big part of this. Where is your ultimate strength, and then how would that manifest in a material way? But you also need to understand any limitations you might have. And you need to also understand the situation you're in. I say situational awareness. And a lot of situational awareness is about who else is involved. Because it always strikes me when people talk about manifestation on a kind of very simple level and just go, the universe is bountiful, the universe wants to give to you, just be clear in your intentions, ask the universe and you will receive, that theoretically, if we're all doing that, then we're all doing that, either consciously or not. And I think this is the point. A lot of these sort of energies operate unconsciously as well. So it's almost, if you could imagine all of those requests being signalled up to the universe, there's going to be some that are actually in competition with each other. Have to be. So how does that actually work in a 3D world where even if theoretically there were enough resources for everyone, they're not all positioned equally in the same spot. They're all not all equally accessible. And we deal with human nature in the access to them. So that's why I feel that, yes, you can do the manifestation thing, but you need to understand the other energies around you. And you need to understand that even if you, and I think the people who come to these readings are spiritually adept, you know what you're doing. I get that from the readings that I do and the energy I get. There are others who are, and there are others who are, but not even conscious of it. It's a bit analogous to a baby that has very little understanding of the world yet, but if it just happens to be somewhere near the button for the nuclear codes or something, like there is a connection to great power that may not even be understood and could be triggered without even a conscious knowing. So I think it's a little bit more complex than people tend to say. And I think the more that we understand ourselves, the more that we can actually navigate that really effectively, and the more we understand other people. So it's a little bit of a rave, but it's why I do the readings the way I do them in many ways, where I really do try and look at different perspectives and levels, because I feel that's what life is. And that's the best way to get you the information. And if we're looking about this, we're really trying to look at, as I say, what is the really high level of you, at an essence level, if it was your personal mythos and your personal power, and then how does that operate in the world, and how can you best make it operate for your highest good, and how do you deal with the moral ambiguities we all deal with in the 3D world. So sorry, that is a bit of a rave, but it's why we're doing it. And I thought that this deck really is a perfect deck to bring that up, because if we look at things at the level of myth, we sort of transfigure it to something that has a narrative and understanding. It's a good way to see something with a kind of clarity that's hard to do if you're just sort of reading, oh, there's some change coming in your life or whatever. I mean, that's all useful in tarot readings, but I think these sort of readings sometimes take us a little bit outside ourselves to see ourselves more clearly. So that's what we're aiming for. So we're going to start with using this tarot, and there's quite a few cards. I don't know what they are under these. All I asked was for each pile that I get a major arcana card. So I shuffled and then dealt out for each till I got a major arcana card. This is part of your energy. So if you feel drawn to it, and if you feel drawn to more than one, by all means go to more than one. You might be amalgam across a couple, because there's going to be 3 cards just on your energy. So it's 3 mythological characters, not just one. But this is going to be one of them in each pile. So that may help you with the choice. Otherwise, just go with the imagery or however else you choose, or go to more than one reading. So for pile number 1, we have the Magician. I will look at these for their classic meaning in tarot, but I'm also going to be looking at who the characters are. And in this case, it's Hecate. For pile number 2, we have the Fool, and the mythological character is Pan. And for pile number 3, we have the High Priestess, and the mythological character is Persephone. So if any of those or more than one of those draw you, go to the timestamps. They're in the description box below, and I'll see you in your reading. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So these 3 cards here are indicative of your kind of mythological persona, the person that you are, the combination of energies and how that operates, as I say, at its highest order. These 3 are around friends, lovers, allies, anyone that is a very good energy for you, and how that manifests. And these are competitors, enemies, foes. Not necessarily, these aren't always going to be wonderful people, and these aren't always going to be bad people, but it's how it operates with you, because with the pantheon, there are a lot of alliances and so forth, and a lot of moral ambiguity, which is very true of life. So bear that in mind when we look at it. So I may be saying some things that are good about the enemies, but it's like being aware of that, because you're operating in that. And this is almost the energies you meet that might be in opposition to a greater or lesser extent to what you're trying to create. This is the energy and people that will help what you're trying to create. So firstly, you probably don't need a lot of help. I think you'll get it when you need it here, but you don't need a lot of help. If you're starting with Hecate, the Magician, one of the most important things about you is that you're very powerful. You may literally have a very strong magical ability that you're aware of, or you may be able to unleash it if you want. I actually think for many of you, this may be something you don't even realize until there is a real drama around you, and then you start to realize your power. I'm also feeling that it's kind of, if you looked back as well as looking forward, because Hecate has the 3 faces, a bit like the god Janus, seeing the past, the future, and the present. Particularly if you look to the past, you're going to actually see a couple of things operating here. Firstly, some of the energy, when these are reversed, what I'm feeling is that they're talking about energies that are within you that you haven't accessed yet, or that you don't access without a trigger. Whereas this is anything upright is something that's very clearly in you. So you come across to people as very powerful, very magical, and so forth. But it's interesting, when we look at the 6 of Swords reversed, the Greek pantheon figure is Eos, which is the spring, the new. If we think about the 6 of Swords, it's that peaceful energy after a battle where we then move forward with confidence, even if we don't fully know what is then going to be born out of it. So Eos, the spring, and so forth. So looking to the past, it's like you would start to see that there may be times where you have held back on what could have been a new pathway. So there's an issue here. I think you do have a very strong potential to find peace and move forward. But I almost feel, particularly with what we're looking at here, and I think it may be even pointing to the fact that something's going to come up that it will really trigger all of this and really bring you into your power. There is a sense over here with the 10 of Swords reversed where we have a energy or a goddess called Melpomene. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. That's the best I can do. She's actually a goddess of sort of tragedy and interestingly enough, the musical instrument, the lyre. But it is about dealing with, calamitous events or dramatic events or things that didn't work out. So I feel as though there is something for you where what's going to happen, it's sort of at the moment, these 2 energies are a little bit unseen at this point, but I feel like this is saying you could already see them if you think about it. What this is telling me is that you could look back and see where sometimes you haven't started the new when you really did have the power to do it. and you can almost prophetically look forward and see where things are going to be difficult. So whether you even knew you were doing it as part of your magic, I think you've had a very good sense of when something could be started and go through to its conclusion, or when something could be started and it's going to hit the rocks really early and not work out. So you have a really good instinct at this sort of level, a magical instinct at this level, to understand where things are going to work and where they aren't going to work, and to be able to moderate that and decide what to move forward with. But I feel because these are both reversed, it's kind of like, it's almost like you have all this power, and maybe a lot of it is when you haven't kind of prophetically picked that up, you just move forward and you seem to manifest and you think, oh, that's fine, it's all working. But there's a nuance to your power, which is also understanding when something is not well situated to move forward, where something, like, it's literally like if you had looked at the Titanic, you would have known it wasn't going to be the sort of powerful ship that it thought it was going to be, and that it eventually was going to do something like hit an iceberg. But you may not have even known that. So this is something to consider within yourself, that you have a kind of a sense of the consequential and where something is founded, well-founded, particularly rationally well-founded. I think the other thing that might be the case with you, Pile 1, is that because you're very magical, very spiritual, you operate on that level, and it's almost like you've detached your mind a bit from it, because these are both swords cards. So you've detached the sort of issue about what makes for a peaceful thought process, and detached what makes for anxiety or the lack of anxiety from your power, because you've been able to create things. But this is about you really getting to the top of your tree and whatever it is that you're trying to do, and understanding that nuance is just as important as the nuance of what you move forward with, because this is something that you can leverage, and it's something that you maybe will help others with as well. But it's not just I can manifest something, it's I can tell when something isn't going to work and how to avoid the drama. So there's some sort of energy around that, and it probably plays out in your material world a lot and things like career and stuff, but it could also be a very good instinct about relationships. Now, in terms of the people that are around you, that are your allies, and I say this could be lovers, friends, family, could be anything. You are kind of effortlessly able to bring things into being, and without really knowing it, you're able to steer things away from calamity. But it's very interesting because the people around you, particularly with the Seven of Wands reversed, so this is Sotera, and she's actually a protective energy. So the interesting thing here is that maybe because you're instinctively doing this well, your friends don't need to do what they normally do. There's something like your friends and allies are normally able to access, and one of their powers is protecting people. So protecting people when the storm is going on. So the odd thing about you, I think, and again, I don't think this has necessarily been thought out, but it's almost as though when they're connected to you, that energy which they normally would show a lot doesn't need to be triggered. So because you have consciously or unconsciously been able to avoid the calamity. So there's a part of them that isn't really in connection with you, really triggered or needing to trigger, but it's in them. It's part of who they are. So they're naturally a very protective energy. They're also with the Three of Cups, graceful, the graces here. They love beauty, they love harmony, very socially adept, very, very wanting sort of the good connections emotionally with people and so forth. I suspect you're a little bit scary. Your friends are a little bit less scary, to be honest. But like, I'm not saying it's scary in a bad way, but I think you're formidable. It doesn't mean your friends don't have their power. They do, because they're actually really protective, but it comes up in another energy. But one of the things that's delightful between the two of you is that, or the you and the others here, is that they are able, because you're very sure of yourself, to be fully within their own beauty and their own grace. And therefore, they can move very quickly towards what you want. You may magically kind of almost help them as well, because with the Eight of Wands with Atlanta, she was one of the fastest runners ever. So it's this sort of energy of being able to move very quickly with things. And it's almost like in combination, the two of you together, your magical power that also, even if you're not aware of it, avoids a lot of the pitfalls, which also means they don't have to spend so much energy on protecting everybody, means that in combination, the sort of beautiful outcomes that you maybe want to collaborate with happen a lot faster. So there's something here about, I feel you're the magical energy and the prophetic energy, and the one that maybe sees, whether you're aware it's a magical power or not, what could go wrong? Like in a conversation with you and your friends here, you're more likely to be the one who, whether you're aware it's part of your magic, would say, yeah, if we do that, that's going to go to custard, basically. You have that sense, and some may almost say you're a little bit pessimistic, but you're not actually. You're just very astute about this stuff. Your friends, lovers or whatever are more likely to be, here's the beauty of it, here's the joy of it, here's what we want to do, let's get moving. So I think you kind of balance each other, because I think that to move something forward does benefit from the kind of the positivity, that let's get it done, the yes, we can do this and here's the joy in it. You're not necessarily focusing so much on the joy, you're focusing on the power of making it happen. But they're going so fast that they often have to then protect something, whereas they don't have to with you. So it's very interesting. What's also interesting though over here is your competitors. I actually think your competitors are quite like you, but they manifest it in a different way. Or actually what they're like actually is an amalgam of these two. If you look at here with the King of Cups, we've got Croesus, and he was one of the Titans, and he's involved in sort of like the various sort of usurping of like who was going to be God of the universe and so forth. So he's there's a maturity. It doesn't have to be a he, by the way. I'm just saying this character is a he. A maturity of emotion that we have with the King of Cups, and empathy and understanding. So this is very similar in a way to their sense of joy and almost the protective energy together. And there is a cause, people that could potentially be your competitors. I think they're more your competitors than your foes. I don't feel that you are too antithetical to each other for it to be a foe, but they have some of that. They have a little bit of a kind of combination of both of these things. They're not showy with the sun reversed. Like they're a little bit less. Your power is very obvious. People know it the minute you walk in a room, and whether it's just the sheer energy that you have that I say is a little bit intimidating, or whether it's just it exudes out of you, that is kind of the primary thing that people respond to with you. With these people, they do have a lot of energy. I mean, the sun with Helios, that's sort of like the cycles of night and day. It's the sun, the warmth, and so forth. But they don't push themselves forward. But they get things done as well. They get things done in a different way. What's happening here is your pure manifestation combined, and your navigation for avoiding the issues, combined with the energy of your allies around social graces and enthusiasm, is a very potent thing. Your competitors kind of have a bit of both these things. They're more emotionally empathic rather than graceful and beautiful. This is a very charismatic and sort of arresting type of energy. This is a little bit more muted, but they do get things done. And I think that the main issue could be whether this is seen as a gentler energy. And so whether in certain circumstances, even if you really do see what needs to happen and you really do see whether you've connected it or not, what could go wrong, they could easily send out of the best of all possible intentions, or possibly out of the opposite, just to be opposite to you, depending on how much this is operating as a competitor or a foe. They could take people down a pathway without seeing those odds, and then kind of help soothe them through that. And they may appear to be more about the other person, where you and maybe your competitors might appear to be a little bit more about yourselves. Now this, as I say, I'm talking about moral ambiguity here. I'm talking about all those sort of energies. I don't think you're coming from that place, but that's your Achilles heel in any of this. You have this natural capacity to be able to manifest. You have, that magical skill. You have a lot of power that people pick up, and you have a really good sense of when things could go wrong, whether you've connected those two things or not. But you might be a little bit intimidating. What is good about the people around you, they're less intimidating. It's more about the social graces. And you are actually, what they get from you is you liberate them to move forward, because you really do see where the pitfalls might be. I don't think your competitors see where the pitfalls might be, but they're good at getting things done in the material world because it's a gentler type of energy. So that's interesting. This is not a full-on, this is not a really big foe energy. It's more the alternative way. And if you're trying to sort of like run a business or have a relationship or whatever it is, it's a different offering that's coming from the other side. So that's interesting. So let's get into tarot a bit. So using now a different tarot, we're just going to ask more in the 3D. If this is at its most mythical level, in the 3D, how does your power manifest in the material world? Then we're going to ask, what do you meet in the material world from allies and from your competitors? And then we're going to ask where there could be moral ambiguity for you. So firstly, just a little bit more about how this magical ability, and I think this prophetic ability really, manifests in the material world for you. The King, oh, now isn't that interesting? It manifests very similarly to what's going on with a competitor. Yeah, you are very like your competitors. The Empress, the Ace of Wands reversed, the Two of Swords, the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, all right. So I think that's kind of good news, to be honest. I think because I think that the biggest risk for you was this King of Cups energy that the competitors might do. So on a manifestation level, while there's a lot of power here, I think that you do naturally know how to moderate it with empathy. And so that is good. You actually have a nurturing energy. So underneath this, you may come across, as I say, being really full on some levels, but you can moderate it. So it's saying that, yes, this, if you would, on a mythical level, if you're looking at the big picture stuff, you're more the magical creator and the prophet, and they're more the kind of healer and the collaborator and that kind of energy. And this is more your kind of social graces. You really do have quite a lot of the capacity to sort of empathize, and you have some of the energy of your allies around being nurturing. So and this may be part of your power actually. It might be that you act, I'm getting that what you do without knowing is you absorb a bit of the power of those that are around you. It's not done in a malefic way or anything. It's actually good. It's good that you do. One of your powers is you can do it. And I think it's one of the reasons why you can avoid pitfalls, because you can really empathize in and see the energy of others. This stops you from acting where it's going to be a problem. So this really is a major power of yours. Like being able to see where you just do not go in that direction, no matter how exciting it might sound, you can really see what's going to happen, because I think you connect in so much with other people that you know that. Therefore, you can make a decision even when there isn't a lot of actual information. And this, I think, is why people see you as magical. They can't figure out why it is. How do you know? And yet you do. You just know. And you can see when the timing is right for things too. Even when the decision might be not so much about do we do it, it might be when do we do it. So I think you're just an incredible, on a material level, you actually do connect in with people a lot. They're a little bit in awe of you about it, but like you kind of have a nice social life anyway. But you are able to deal with the competitors a bit, because people, if they were looking at the two of you, would go, well, I'm getting a nice empathic energy from both, but there's something about this person, like they just seem to know, and that brings people to you. So that's interesting. So on the 3D level, the material level, what are you sort of encountering from this energy, this very socially adept, quite protective when necessary, enthusiastic sort of energy? How is that playing out in the people who are your friends and allies and lovers and so forth? Ace of Cups reversed. Three of Cups reversed. Oh, that's interesting. Three of Cups. Okay. The Queen of Swords reversed. Okay. I'm going to put down around here too, because something occurred to me just as I was shuffling that I'm going to say, because I think this is saying that in at least one case it's the case, but I'll get to it. Then around the competitors, Five of Swords reversed. The lover, yeah, this is what I thought. Temperance reversed. Okay. For some of you, or maybe all of you or most of you, and you'll know when you come to the reading, there's at least one situation where someone who started as an ally or a friend and became a lover eventually becomes a competitor. So that is going to happen if it hasn't happened already. So I think that, and I think, interesting, with the Three of Cups reversed and the Queen of Swords reversed, I think this is only really wanting to talk about that, because I think it's sort of saying on a material level more generally, you've got nice people around you, it's all good. But if you need to know the material level, since you are able to absorb the qualities of both these sides, I think that you're going to come across, Actually, I think you're going to come across two things. I think you're going to come across a lover who becomes a competitor. I also think you may come across a friend who becomes very critical, because the energy here, what is interesting if you look at this is the risk that's associated here. And again, this is only going to happen sometimes, because for the most part, this is a good energy. They are allies and friends. But the energy here is one of their strengths is protecting people. But if you've already avoided the need for protection, there could be a sort of like unconscious level of, what do I do with this now? You know, how do I become somebody, this great manifestor? How do I, you know, like, I don't want to just be the social person. So I think that there is something, when that occurs, it's about them looking in on themselves and their own self-critique. And again, using your ability here, if you bring this to the surface, you might be able to see this coming, and you might be able to make sure that they do feel that there's so many other things that they bring to the table, so that you don't have that occur. But there's a kind of internal ricochet where that could occur to move them over to the other side. And I do think that for some of you, there's going to be a lover that it's going to become like this. And I don't think there's a lot you can do about that. Just be aware that it could at some point have that energy. But I think this is like, for the most part, you'll know. And even with the lover, you might be able to avoid getting too emotionally connected if you're using this energy. This is why those two being reversed is really important for you to understand that it's part of your magic. Now, over here, in terms of, as I say, there's a very close relationship with at least one of the ones who becomes a competitor or a foe, definitely. And they don't give up. Like, so it's a possibility that if they're a lover and then they move over here, they don't give up on the competition. Or it could be, in fact, that for some of you, there's one that wants to be a lover and it's just not the right energy, and you know it's not the right energy, and they kind of get a bit obsessed. So that's a possibility with some of you as well. But it's also, they don't give up on relationships, and this can get a kind of imbalance around how they connect to you and connect to other people. There's a sense of determination underneath this. And this, I think, is the sun reversed. I think it's like they're not showing their ego, but the ego is there. So I think that the biggest competition from these people will be about the hearts and minds. They want the hearts and minds of people, whether it's a lover, a friend, or whatever. If you threaten that, that's when you're really going to see them dig in. And they wouldn't necessarily be above destabilizing things to try and move things in their direction. So it's like the ego is there, but it's a bit sort of hidden. And they have a tendency to be able to come across as though they're ego-less, but they're determined as hell. So just be aware of that. Okay, so given that there's a kind of there is the main thing here is a competitive energy. What is the moral ambiguity of your power? What do you have to face within yourself that is a moral ambiguity? Six of Wands reversed. The Star, okay, yeah. The Ten of Pentacles, okay, all right. It is about who is going to be seen and who is going to win and who's going to be successful. There is a real energy here because you can absorb and incorporate both sides of this, and you have a lot of magic. And as I say, of all of you, when you walked in a room, you're going to really command presence. When your friends walk in a room, there's something graceful, beautiful, very attractive about them and very comforting about them. When this person walks in, it's more understated, but it sort of feels like a warm hug. You are the one who tends to stand out. And that has its own moral ambiguity, because when you're looking at a very subtle thing about hearts and minds, it's like where you could end up starting to use your power, and it's considerable, towards something that was not necessarily in your highest good or the highest good of others. It could be if you're not feeling that recognition. It's also anything to do with family, money, career. You're going to be, that's where you could be compromised potentially. So it's just worth knowing. I mean, it doesn't mean you are going to be, but we all have points where we could be. So there's one point about you getting your due recognition, and the second thing is about anything like material, family, home, money, those sort of things could trigger it. Otherwise, I think by and large you just absorb this and you move through it, and you've got a really good radar for avoiding this. But there are going to be some circumstances where it's inevitable. So very interesting. Okay, so let's get you a couple of spirit guides for you, given you have a complex situation here, pile one. Archangel Zadkiel, transmutation, mercy, the violet flame. Yeah, go to your highest order and to your own, almost into your crown chakra around all of this. Like there is a balance, and the original power. See this as a transformation energy. Yeah, because again, remember, I think most of this, which is a competition, you can avoid because you have this sense. It's just understanding that bit about your power, how it triggers other people, how other people trigger you around that can help you avoid that. And going to that level can help you see that. And Archangel Gabriel, self-expression, creativity, North Star. You're following your North Star, and this is the Archangel of prophecy, and you're prophetic. So you'll know what I'm talking about here. It's using that ability more. That's why they came up reversed. It's like to make sure you start to use that ability more, because it's important. It's important for you to get the best out of your own mythical power. So it's also important to have your sort of chakras and internal energy aligned. So I'm just going to draw 3 chakra cards just to see what balance or imbalance there might be to consider for yourself. So firstly, we have the throat chakra. Underactive, I talk but I fear expressing myself. Okay, where this, and this may be this as well too, I think you see things. Some people would probably accuse you of being glass half empty. Or you may see things that are coming up politically, socially or whatever that aren't good to look at, but you need to look at them to be able to deal with it. But when you raise it, people might find it like too much. Like your friends or whatever are kind of like, they wouldn't say something that was going to be socially disruptive. And the person over here is just going to be helping people after the deluge has occurred. So there is something here about knowing that it is good to speak your truth and not to feel afraid of that. That's actually one of your superpowers. Then we have the sacral chakra. I feel creative balance. So yeah, it may be through creativity. Maybe you don't do it directly. Maybe you don't say, oh, I think this is going to all go to custard, but you actually do something creative to show it, to allow people to, in a more socially beautiful way, pick up what you're trying to say. And heart chakra. I love but can be overly self-critical. Yeah, this is the thing, like your competitors over here aren't like that. They think they're fine. And your friends actually are very comfortable within. You have a lot of power to deal with. And for that reason, you tend to criticize yourself. You hold yourself in very strict regulation. Because you can see whether you're aware it's a magical power, what happens if you don't. But these things are out of balance. It's that kind of more, the dark, the Hecate is in the underworld, she's down with Persephone. So you can see and look at things at a level that most people can't. And I think that makes you very critical of yourself and it makes you worry about the impact. But there's something creative that you can do to balance that all out. So let's have a look at the astro energy. So we're going to look for you, for your friends and for your competitors. Just the kind of primal, like a pairing of planets that gives us a little bit more information about you in respect to your power and other people's power. So for you, we get Sun and Chiron. Ultimately, your life path is to heal things. This is why it's like knowing half of the thing about healing is the right diagnostic, right? So you don't doubt that. And sometimes healing, they sort of say, medicines may not be pleasant, but nevertheless, they're necessary. So understand overall you're a healer. And it's interesting, therefore, because you do have the King of Cups here, and what you're drawing out is maybe that competition with other healers. But I feel like you'd be the healing that was maybe not so pleasant to go through, but is going to be really effective in the long term. Whereas I feel like your competitor's more like, okay, well, let's take it easy. And it may take a lot longer for something to occur. Okay, then in terms of the planetary energy around your friends, lovers, all the people that are kind of in your camp, they've got Chiron and Pluto, so they want to see changes. Well, there's a change in healing energy. But this is actually, that makes sense. Chiron and Pluto, that protective energy, this is their protection and their healing kicks in when it's necessary to protect. This is why, in a way, you just have to be aware that your own prophetic ability could be dampening their sense of their own power without it being conscious. On the other hand, if it's more articulated and they can almost prepare the protection and the healing by knowing what's coming, that could work really well. And then around your competitor or foe or enemy at its worst, Saturn and Chiron, it's all about healing. I think that in some way, healing, Also learning, actually. Chiron is also about learning. So it's either a competition about sort of learning, understanding and so forth. I think, what makes the world work, psychology, any of those sort of things, even magic, or it's about healing. But either way, they're slower about what they do, but they do want to rule. And that's picking up that kind of energy with the King of Cups, with that particular mythological creature, the kind of sense of what is the power of the universe. You're kind of doing it because it's natural to you. Your friends are doing it because they like to support and protect people through change. Your competitors tend to do it because it's about power. So if you understand those dynamics, it's easier to kind of, really trigger what you understand about the consequences, because it is your secret weapon, pile one. Okay. So just to finish off, I'm just going to draw a couple of colour goddess cards for any last sort of advice about using your mythos and your personal power to your highest good. So firstly, we have lilac, immaturity, innocence, youth. There may be something here about, and it's interesting, the lilac thing, there may be something here about helping young people. So I don't know what that means, but that's what I feel it's saying, helping young people, the next generation actually. If anything triggers or threatens the next generation, and that's really important to you, and you've got to think about how you do it. I don't think this is saying that you're young, because like Hecate is not a young energy. Though it's interesting, Eos is the spring and it's the new, and this is sort of like the kind of suppressed energy about what to do with new things. I think that there could be a thing here about understanding how you can help those younger is a real way to awaken that in a way that feels very positive. And then lastly, we get sunflower, happiness, joy, play. Yeah, kind of have a bit of fun. There's an energy with your friends, like really make the most of that, because there is something, it's not heavy in a bad way about you, but it's intimidating to some degree. So I think, lightening up, having fun, all of that kind of thing. And like trusting your instincts, because it's kind of like once you really learn to trust your instincts, not just your manifestation ability, then you know that you can have fun, because you've got one of the best radar systems in the universe for knowing when something could go wrong. So really learn to trust that and get creative. So I hope that resonates for you, pile one. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile two, to your reading. So you came to the reading with Pan, with the Fool. So certainly Pan as a mythological character is wildness and the new journeys and the enjoyment of life and kind of a freedom. So there's a very strong freedom energy to you. That's part of your highest purpose and highest power. I think this is pretty clear actually with the two other cards here and the gods and goddesses associated with this, that there is something highly creative about you, creative or inspirational or a bit of both. Because Pan, as I say, is all the sort of like the joy of life and the excitement and the new, and I think at its highest level, creatively and inspirationally, you can bring in new things, you can inspire people to do new things, you are able to generate and self-generate yourself in a very powerful sort of way. I mean, look at how there's all these butterflies around Pan, so it's sort of like you can do that, you can regenerate yourself really well. But I think it's creative. And the reason I say that is that you also have the Six of Cups here, which it has Mnemosyne. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but she is a goddess of memory, but she's also the mother of the muses. So the 9 muses were all the creative kind of muse energy that brings through kind of inspiration to people and talents to people. So I feel that you either have a direct connection to that and you're inspired in anything new you do, or you bring it out in others. And I suspect at the moment you bring it out in others. And one of the things that this reading is inviting you to do is think about bringing it out in yourself, because the other card, and what I'm looking at here, when I see reversals, I'm seeing an underlying kind of hidden energy. It's like that hasn't really been fully accessed. And you have the Chariot, which in this deck is Apollo, and Apollo is a massively creative energy. Massively inspirational. It's an artistic energy. It's gifts galore in that kind of level. And with the Chariot, the sense of moving forward with it. So I feel that at the moment you may use your sort of incredible sense of the new and the exciting, and you inspire people and you draw them along, but you may not have fully accessed how much your own creative vision could come into being. Or in doing it, you may hide yourself a bit, and it may in fact be deliberate. One of the energies that I see when I see something like this is someone like David Bowie or someone like that where there's really cutting edge, genius level creativity. And I do think that the people who come here, you've got that potential at your highest level of a genius level creativity. But I feel like you either, as he did, like nobody really knew who David Bowie was, I guess, opposed to, except for the people who really were close to him personally, because he was always reinventing himself. So there's a real sense of reinvention here, but like also inspired others. Many people followed what he did and so forth. So at its best, you inspire people, you bring them forward. At its most challenging, people may mimic you or may copy you. And it'll be interesting because your challenges that are over here are quite formidable, but it's formidable in a different way. But if you are in any sort of area looking to try and inspire people to find their full creativity as well as others, there is a kind of a possibility that there's a similar thing operating with some of your competitors or foes. So it's just something, and I'll get more into that, to think about. But you're very alive, you're very creative, you're very sensual, you're very connected to the earth, you're very connected to the liminal space, all of those sort of things. So that's you. This is the energy around your friends, allies, and so forth. Now, this is interesting. Where you connect, I think, is a sense of innate joy. We have the Nine of Cups, and this has Amphitrite, and she is, I think, Poseidon's wife, certainly sort of the water and of joy and of the expansiveness of all things emotional. So there's a very strong emotional connection between you and the people that you're close to. And there's a sense of joy in it. You enjoy each other's company. You enjoy being together. They probably inspire you a bit with their emotional sort of expansiveness, but also your inspiration helps them expand. And I think it's a bit more of the second, even though I do think you enjoy them. Because these people are people of great depth, I have to say. They have either known poverty, with Five of Coins reversed with Penia, she is the goddess of poverty, or they are very finely attuned to where resources are not properly divided, or where there could be that kind of issue, and they're very acquainted with the Knight, because with the Page of Swords reversed, it's Erebus, I think is how you pronounce it, Erebus, who is the husband of Nyx, the goddess of the night, and this is all about the kind of the fog of shadow around things. So these are both things that are a little bit under the cover. I don't think most people would know this about these people. Most people would experience just the joy and the emotional depth, but underneath there is a sense they've either come from lack and darkness and challenge, or they really understand it, and that's part of their emotional depth. So it's almost like what I feel here is what often happens is that you inspire the great poets, the great writers, the great artists, the great singers, like you inspire people who are in touch with this emotion and can kind of make it into something beautiful. So I really do think there's a very high inspirational energy with the people that you're around. But beyond that, I think you also can lead them out of that when it's necessary. But what they bring to you is showing that there is also joy and understanding in exploring that and coming out of it. There's almost a kind of Persephone feeling here of like they can go into the underworld, they can go into the depths, and then they can come out and they're still emotionally open. So it's like they can see the exploration that way. I feel like they are exploring the shadow and the underworld. You're exploring the earth and all the upper levels. So it's a really nice balance. But I think sometimes they're giving something to you, sometimes you're getting something from them. Your competitors or your enemies. I think that what I feel primarily for you, this is all about the creative exploration. What I feel this is like the soul, the shadow, and transmuting that energy. Your competitors are much more in the material world, and they're much more about community work, social work, political work, or where there is conflict and where things need to be difficult. Your competitors, firstly, you have with the Nine of Wands, Bia, and she is a very warrior-like energy. They don't tend to be overtly into battle. They're more careful about what they do. They really understand the environment that they're in. They're the diplomats, the negotiators, the peacemakers. So they're not bad people. And I didn't think these people were necessarily going to be bad. It's just that it's an energy that competes with you or is a challenge for you. But they are much more about the social niceties and keeping you are about, no, let's be wild, let's be free, let's bring it all up. And your friends are also like, let's see the shadow, let's not hide it. These people are the diplomats. They want temperance, they want balance. But they are also somehow connected to drawing people to their calling. You're drawing people to a creative calling. They're drawing them, I think, to a calling that is more social. And their kit bag is very intellectual because we've got Artemis and we've got Athena. Artemis with temperance, great sort of huntress energy, actually actively goes after bringing people into the fray, into whatever it is. And with Athena, very clever. So you have some competitors. They're very smart. They're very strategic. They're the diplomats. They're the negotiators. They're a very different energy to you. So in a situation when you're trying to kind of get the wildest, most open outcome, they may be the ones who go, like, you can't say that here, or censor things on some level or something like that. But they aren't trying to be deliberately embattled, but they're ready for a battle. And boy, they would be formidable in an argument. You're formidable in just the energy and the inspiration and bringing people with you. If we were looking at two different political people, say, as an example here, though I do think this is more artistic, but just to give you an example, you would get the hearts and minds. You would sort of say something and people would be really inspired by that. These people would be more able to give the facts and the logic and draw in the people who are kind of looking for that side of things. So people who want to be inspired would be drawn to you. People who want to have a strategy and maybe leverage it in some way would be drawn to these people. But what is in common between you is you're both going for the hearts and minds. You are doing it through wanting to inspire people to be all that they could be and to be free. These people are wanting to draw people to their calling, and there's a very strong social energy to it. So that's the kind of differentiation. And it's interesting that their friends and allies are people who are able to deal with the shadow but still find joy, because they're almost like the midway point between the two. This feels very, life is a battle and life is earnest. And this feels very, no, life is all about exploration. And somewhere in the middle here, your friends are a good balancing thing of like, life can be enjoyable and life is ultimately beautiful, but we have to look at the other side of it. And in fact, any creative energy we have, or even any social energy, will be enriched by being prepared to go into and understand the true consequences of things. So interesting energy. So let's see with tarot, with a different tarot, a little bit about how this plays out in the 3D, because this is the mythic thing. You're the big creative, inspiring, creative energy who maybe could even be more creative yourself if you wanted to really amp it up. Your friends are the people who will walk in the underworld but still have joy, and your competitors are the strategists. So let's see how your mythos is working for you in the 3D, in the material world at the moment, pile 2. Strength reversed, the Devil reversed, 7 of Pentacles, 3 of Swords reversed, 5 of Cups reversed. Okay. For a start, I think that Spirit is saying here, I think this is really important, that the Chariot is reversed. I think Spirit really wants you to think about your own personal creativity, not just drawing people along with you. And maybe also about that it's time to reinvent yourself in some way. Because if you have been creative with this sort of like inspirational and reinvention sort of energy, because this looks like at the moment you're not using your full strength, or maybe not even aware of your full strength. And part of it is you just want to be free. And that is fine. There's nothing with wanting to be free, but it is saying that there is something that you could build and grow. And this is the thing here. It's sort of like the energy that you're giving off is that you reinvent yourself and you try different things. And it might be actually hard to work out where to put your energy. And it's sort of like, okay, what will grow for you? What is your expression? Not just the kind of exploration, but what do you want to actually create out of it? Because you're a very creative energy. And this requires you, and it's interesting that we've got the 6 of Cups, to let go of some pain or something that maybe, I mean, I think there's a sense, I think for some of you, you felt maybe in your childhood, or maybe you feel it at the moment in a workplace, you feel really constrained. Like the freedom is the only thing. It's like the thing that's really driving you, because it is really core to who you are. So there's something about the struggle for freedom and the cost of the struggle for freedom that Spirit is asking you to look at so that you can, I think, turn that Chariot around. You can bring that Apollo energy up. It's saying that until you do that, you're always going to have this little bit of a bittersweet thing. And that's interesting if these are your friends and allies, because it may be that because their energy is really in that space, and I don't think they mean any harm, but it's something to be aware of. It may be that you kind of have almost accepted, like they influence you, because they do seem to have the joy that you're looking for, but they influence you with this kind of walking in the shadows. And I think this is the same with the Chariot with Apollo. Apollo is bright energy, sun energy, really. So I think it's saying that is a thing to think about. That it's like freedom at all costs, maybe all costs is too much. What do you want to create with your freedom? So that's what Spirit is asking you to think about at the moment, to really bring about the peak level of your mythical power, so to speak. So let's see how you're experiencing your friends in the 3D and how you're experiencing competition in the 3D as well. So friends, allies, lovers, people who are close to you and on your team. Judgment, that's interesting. 10 of Wands reversed. The Page of Pentacles reversed. Okay, yeah. There is something about their influence. It's not badly meant, but you need to know about it. Then in terms of the competition, the Queen of Pentacles reversed. Temperance reversed. Okay. 7 of Wands reversed. All right. Okay. So, as I say, you're this wild, reinventing, creative energy. What's going on with your friend? Because at the moment, freedom has been the main thing. It's the really big focus for you, and it's what inspires you. The strength about what you could create, you haven't really tapped into. It is partly because of the people that are with you. They don't mean anything by this, but they have a particular calling they're following which takes them into the shadow. That's not where you're meant to be. But in a weird way, because they can do it, it's like they kind of unburden you of that sort of issue. But what happens is it kind of stops you from deciding what you're going to create. It may even be that they inspire you a lot with something they create. As I say, they could be sort of amazing at writing poetry or songs or write novels or do something like that where they take that pain and that shadow and they put it out there, or it could be something they do spiritually. But it's almost like if you went to if these were spiritual people, they would spend so much time on, you've got to be in the lower levels and you've got to be healing yourself and it never ends, and you just, it stops you from doing the creation that you're actually meant to do. Like there is a balance. They mean well, but there is a balance. And I think that you may too much feel that they understand what the calling is because you're wild and all that kind of thing. And it's sort of like you're looking for sort of that's balance, but I think it's a little bit out of balance. I don't think that it's not meant badly, but if you start to understand that, it's like their realm is the underworld, your realm is the sky, and you need to understand the difference. It doesn't mean that you can't be friends. It doesn't mean it's harmonious, but you're, interestingly enough, as someone who's incredibly inspirational for others, the way to really inspire yourself is you need to inspire yourself, not have somebody else inspire you. What is happening as well, and this is about what you do with yourself. So what this is showing me is, there's such ability, but it's like between this almost, one will never be fully healed, one will never, it's always going to be a struggle type of energy. And then this feeling over here that some of your competition are really strategic and they just kind of do it. It makes it hard for you to commit to something. And it makes you feel unbalanced and not ready to go forward. Like there's something, these people can talk a good talk really, really well. Like they can really convince you they know. Like, in fact, you are a little bit influenced by both. Like you feel like somebody else will tell you what your direction is. You want freedom, but it's sort of like to really access this energy. And it's saying, no, it's actually within you. You just have to access it yourself. But you're kind of, because of the wildness associated with all of this, it's sort of like you kind of think, something else has to anchor me. But in fact, you can anchor yourself. That's with your own creativity. But these people seem very clever. It may seem like, for instance, if you were doing something creative or something spiritual, and these people were also doing something creative and spiritual, what they're doing may not be as groundbreaking, brilliant, or whatever is what you could do, but they kind of know how to play the game. And I think what it's doing is it's making you doubt yourself. So understand that this is why the Chariot reverse, this is why Spirit wants you to look at this. That their way is of the tactician, yours is of the creator, and it's different. But don't get overwhelmed by that, and don't get drawn into the, oh, it's always going to be a struggle energy either, because you're this wild pan energy. So let's see where the moral ambiguity comes in, because when you are accessing your power, you also have to look at what could trigger moral ambiguity in you. So we get the Knight of Pentacles, the Lovers, the Eight of Swords. Okay. Anything that makes you feel a lack of freedom, you'll act however you need to act to get out of that. So that could be a sort of thing. You really do need to know that freedom is the number one thing for you, but like then you need to create. Also anything that has to do with material stuff could create this. This is why you've got this sort of, it's how you get dedicated to something. It's a real challenge, because I think that you're not sort of defining what that is for yourself. The other space where this energy could become a little bit morally ambiguous is in your closest personal relationships. Like because of that freedom, I think. It's how you manage that. So I think that's pretty self-evident what that means, particularly with Pan as the God energy around it. Okay, so let's get you a couple of other non-Greek mythology, spiritual energies, so like spirit guides that can help you around all of this, pile 2. Sekhmet, okay, yeah, fierceness, like being, right, it's a fierce, creative energy, rebuilding, like it's all that kind of reinvention. It's like knowing in a way that it doesn't matter, that tacticians have to build slowly and strategically, because they have probably like a very follow the line type of energy, and they'll get what they're after by doing that. Someone who is wild needs to be ready for things that some things are going to work, some things aren't going to work. So Sekhmet is here to sort of like help you get back to that first principle and that kind of creative energy. And Archangel Raphael, intuition, health, healing. So if there's any healing that you need to do around this, and you know what, I think it's also a little bit of a gentle thing to point again to your friends. It's like, you can find healing within and through Raphael. It's like you don't have to get caught in this endless sort of like, how do I heal? How do I make it okay? Or whatever. Like that's getting in the way of your energy. And as I say, it's not meant in any harm. These people are on your side, but it's like that's their path. It's not your path, pile 2. Okay, so let's have a look at what you need to get in balance, or what you can leverage that is in balance on a chakra level as well. Heart chakra, underactive. I love, but I lack empathy. Okay, this is around the moral ambiguity in the Pan energy. Okay, I don't think beyond that you lack empathy, but I do think this is the thing. There's a bit of like moral ambiguity around. If you have freedom as your number one thing, how is that going to impact people that you love? So I do think it's something you need to think about, because otherwise you could start feeling guilty about things if you haven't been clear and you haven't been empathic, which takes you into this, oh, I did it wrong type of energy. I also don't think your competitors are very empathic, and so you might sort of think, oh, well, that's what I have to do. So it's something to think about. Then we have the solar plexus. This is overactive. I do act self-centered. Okay, yeah, this is the freedom thing. And I think this is how they can get into your head. These people over here would tell you, that we have to go into the shadow, we have to understand the shadow, and some of your freedom and almost licentious behaviour sometimes potentially is too self-centered. But like it's part of who you are. You've got to sort of just understand how to balance that and how to connect it to your heart so that you understand the impact on other people. Okay, and some of the people over here might say, oh, you're just too self-indulgent, that's why it's not working. So just be aware of how that way of thinking about yourself could trigger issues for you. And we have another solar plexus, balance. I do have healthy self-esteem. Yeah, because underneath you do, and remember that. And people with healthy self-esteem actually aren't too self-centered or whatever. The only thing I think here is that your needs emotionally around freedom, for instance, might be different to some other people. That's the thing to think about. It's not that you're being selfish. It's not that you're being too competitive. It's that you're being very true to yourself. But it's like that's the only thing, is to think about how that comes across to others. Okay, so let's get you some astro energy. So a pairing of planets for your power, for your friends, and for your competitors. So for you, we have Mercury and Saturn. Okay, yeah. This is the wild creative energy dealing with any limitations or bounds. That's what you're about. And like, this is why you reinvent. It's like I just suddenly sort of saw someone who escapes any kind of boundary, any kind of prison, any kind of, by just changing. It's like, somebody tries to put you in a prison and you turn into a moth and you fly out. And then the moth, that's, like a spider tries to trap it in its web, so you turn into a panther and then you're too big for the web. Like there's something about your kind of mercurial energy, your intellect and all that kind of thing that you're always pitting against the boundaries. It's also why you have a clash with these people, because they're very Saturnian and they use their intellect in a very Saturnian way. So this is the key thing. Like your power comes from working out the balance of your mercurial energy with what boundaries will work for you and what you can actually bring into being. For your friends and collaborators and so forth, we have Jupiter and Saturn. So yes, they have a sense of the joy of life, but they also have this very Saturnian viewpoint. Like there's something quite Saturnian in all of this, which is interesting, because whether Saturn turns up or not for these people, they're very Saturnian anyway. But there's something here about what is form, and for you it's sort of like the mercurial energy. For them it's about what makes you feel good, but it's pitted against form. And because of these are two almost opposing energies. This is why they have joy on one level, but on another level they're sort of down in the underworld. And then for the people who are potentially your competitors, foes, whatever that might be. Okay, Mercury and Pluto. So their challenge actually is how to go through and navigate change. This is why they're negotiators. This is why they're diplomats actually. They're mostly dealing in change on a kind of social level or a bigger level on that level. Your change is more personal, more creative. Very similar in a way. This is more healing and more self-explorative. They're dealing in like areas of power, so they're bringing that stuff in. But for some reason, that could sometimes become an issue for you. So where you're using your intellect to deal with issues of structure, they're using their intellect to deal with issues of chaos. So you're kind of the chaotic energy. So they're looking at how to manage that and to outwit that, and you're looking at how to outwit the prison cell, so to speak. So that's very interesting. All right, so to finish it all up, I just want to get you a couple of colour goddess cards to see how to really manifest this, what last advice Spirit has for you in making the most of your mythological power. Pile 2. We have Tawny. Conflict, physicality, victory. Like there is a conflict. I think you're going to have to engage in this. You're going to have to work out how to detach from following the energy of your friends, and you're going to sometimes actually be in conflict with these people. But you use different skills, and just be aware of what the conflict really is. But there is victory that you can have. And it's kind of in this sort of like Leonian, like Apollo. It's the creative energy that is your path to victory. And we have Lavender, compassion, empathy and sensitivity. Okay, and that's connecting over to here. So there's something in this about taking the joy and the sensitivity from here, but understanding that you don't need to go into the underworld too. And also understanding, like what's happening around freedom for other people that will be helpful for you. This is like the getting to the empathy energy. But there's also that your creative thing is the thing that's going to have victory in the end. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the High Priestess with Persephone. That's very interesting, actually, with some of the other energy that's come up here, particularly Demeter turning up. This is around enemies or competitors. So that's fascinating, with Persephone being the daughter of Demeter. I think there's some pretty specific stuff here. I'm going to sort of say as an overview first and then go into more detail so that you know if this is the right reading for you. I think that this is either a example, or it's showing that your power is meant to emerge to get back to what you care about, what you love, and who you want to be in a situation where there has been a very controlling energy around you, or may be a very controlling energy around you, either a parental energy or something a bit like that, that is potentially sort of particularly getting in the way of your relationships and your sense of self and so forth. So this, of all of them, there is a particular energy that needs to be dealt with, I think, around the competitor and I feel like it could be very close to home. So there's some energy around that. It could be a competitor for love, but I think it's more likely to be sort of someone who is very controlling with that energy over there. And so it's almost like the dark Demeter, not the positive, because normally when you're talking about Persephone and Demeter was Persephone's mother. When Persephone was stolen into the underworld, Demeter bargained with Hades, and that's how we got the different seasons. And when Persephone is down there, it's sort of autumn and winter, and when she's up in the world, it's spring and summer. But there's a different dynamic operating here. And this is about you coming into your own power, your own knowledge, and really knowing who you are and what you're meant to be. And this is what this is talking about. Of all of the readings, this is the one that has the strongest imperative that you need to understand this, because there is a power that's being suppressed. And it could be connecting to either who you want to be in the world or who you want to love. So it's in that space. So if that resonates, this is your reading. If it doesn't, maybe check out one of the others. So getting to the core bit, this is you, Persephone, as I say. Persephone is, the queen of the underworld. She is the one who went down, who was married to Hades. It is definitely a very strong sign of psychic ability. You're very psychic. You're able to be in the underworld. You're able to be in the darker realms. You're equally able to be in the sun, because she could do both. But they're highly intuitive. So part of your mythos, part of your big ticket thing is about being very psychic, being potentially an adept or open to, or have had in this life or in some other life, direct experience with the mysteries. So this is a big part of you. But I'm looking at the reversed cards in this as energies that are there that are not being accessed right now. So one of the things I'm thinking with the Page of Cups reversed and the Page of Wands, just on what they mean as cards, there is like you're not accessing what you would really love, and you're not accessing how to express yourself. The energy is all there for you to do it. It's just that I feel like a lot of your psychic ability and everything is directed outwards at the moment, and maybe because you're constantly in battle with someone who's trying to control you, or a system that's trying to control you, or something like that. Or it just might be that you tend to be very other person oriented, and so you're not looking at yourself enough, and therefore it's easier for others to control you. So we'll get to that. But when we're looking at this, we have the Page of Cups with Hebe reversed, and she is meant to be about all the beautiful, enjoyable energies. Like what would you love? And it's reversed. So you could create and start to build what you love. Pages are where you're at the point where you could actually really start to do something. So it's there, but for some reason you're not activating it. And then you have Hemera, who is also a kind of energy of sort of self-actualization, a goddess of creativity and self-actualization and all those sort of energies. So it's like you're poised with your psychic and spiritual ability to quite magically bring in the love and the ambition and the creativity, anything that you want to do to express yourself. But Spirit is saying that there's a formidable thing going on here, which I'll talk about. And you need to understand that these are things you need to access in yourself to deal with that. You can do it. It's just you need to reclaim it. That's what I feel. In terms of friends and allies, I think that you are drawn to, or there are people around you who have gone through the journey that you're meant to go through. They've done it in a slightly different way. You're doing it. You're highly sensitive, highly intuitive. It's for you, it's very much about psychic things, and it could make it more difficult than it could be for others, in as much as you could easily empathize and connect into the energy of those that are controlling you just as much as those who would help. For the people around you, when we've got psyche here, I mean, that is, again, psychic. There is a kind of psychic energy. Your friends do have psychic energy, but I feel like it's more intellectualized with your friends. So Psyche married Eros, so it was connecting that energy of knowledge and self-awareness and self-actualization, because this is the Queen of Wands, with the passion, the pure passion. So you have friends who've in a sense done this. They've gone past with Nine of Coins reversed with Plutus, which is about wealth. When that's reversed, they've actually been able to look at how to be free of worrying about that. And with phobias, which is fears, how to be free of fear. So there's something beautiful in the energy of those that are close to you and supporting you, where they've gone through a journey a bit like this. You may even find in a spiritual group or a support group, if you, for instance, and you could be with this energy coming out of a narcissistic family or something like that, you may have found others who've gone through this, who help you, who've actually done it. And they might have done it slightly differently, as I say. It might be about moving beyond a sense that their material or intellectual sense of self is not reliant on anybody else. It's just reliant on themselves, and they've started to define that. So that's great. And I also think your intuition helps them as well. But I think they inspire you potentially to say, well, what do I really love, and who do I really want to be? Because over here, competitors. Demeter, as I say, theoretically, your mother. So for some of you, this is about a nurturing figure in your life. If it's not your mother, it's someone who has that, or someone who has a strong divine feminine energy, but maybe is in a position of power, like a boss or something like that. There is an energy there where instead of negotiating for you, there is a controlling energy. So because Demeter had a lot of power and will to kind of negotiate with heaven and negotiate with the underworld. So there's someone who's a formidable energy and who you may look up to, or you may think that you're supposed to listen to for some reason. We have the Three of Wands reversed with Anarchy as well. And the fact that this is reversed, this tells me that just like you have more power than you are looking at, so does this person, because Anarchy was a primordial being, a primordial goddess. She was the mother of the fates. So this is significant, okay? I actually think that there's something here where there's probably a very karmic connection between you and whoever this person is, and I think it's one person. I mean, for some of you, it might be a system you're in, but for most, it's going to be one person. And this person is formidable too. You're both formidable, but yeah, you need to be aware of it, because they haven't really brought out their full firepower here. They have some power over your destiny or fate. Now, they may have less if you start to define what you want. It may be at the moment they have that power over it because you haven't done that, but you do need to be aware that somebody is having a big influence on you. And it could be a lover if it's not a family member. That's a possibility. Or they could have a particular thing about whether you are with the person that you love. Because over here, again, going back to Psyche had to kind of battle for the right to be with Eros. So for some of you, this is a very powerful force around who you should be with, and it's stopping you from being who you want to be and who you want to love. But you have this ability. You can go within you're kind of effectively married to the god of the underworld. You know, I mean, you have that sense of, I'm not saying literally, but I'm saying mythologically, you have a lot of power to draw on and a lot of allies to draw on, and you have others who've worked out how to do this. But there's something like that going on. So this is very, very specific. So I do think you'll know if that fits. It's like about love, or about who you are, how you express something, and it's a formidable enemy or controlling force that you have to deal with. So let's use tarot to look at this on a material level. Let's first of all look a little bit more about how your mythos could play out in the material world. Two of Pentacles reversed, King of Swords reversed, Wheel of Fortune reversed. Wow. Three of Cups. The Devil. Wow. There's a lot of underneath stuff. Like, number one, you have the power of the underworld. You have the power of the underworld. So this is more positional, or as I say, you know, it could be a parent, so they were the parents, so they've got that kind of like structural thing. They are formidable, but so are you. But you need to understand that you are. So you have power as well. Because at the moment, there's like some gaslighting going on. That's what that's saying. It's making it hard for you to make material choices about what you want. But you are meant to be able to do it. The Three of Cups. I feel like you've got at least two friends or connections that will really help you with this, who've been through something similar or who understand it. It could be a friend who's been through something similar and another one who understands. It's like, if this is around dealing with narcissism or something like that, it could even be a therapist. But there is cause for celebration coming through when you understand your own power. But you felt like this other person, like, how do you deal with that? They're controlling your fate in some way, but they're not. This is what it's trying to say. It's only because you haven't used your own ability to do that. So it's sort of like saying, come into your power. Persephone is an incredibly powerful figure. So don't let kind of almost positional power or something like that, or relativity that was in this to start with, stop you from pursuing what you want. You are meant to do that. You are meant to claim your power. And it's almost being done so that you claim your power, actually. It's almost like on a soul level, you're being pitted against a formidable person to understand that you control your fate more than they do. So let's see how the friendship energy and that energy is playing out on a material level for you. So the friendship energy, Seven of Swords, the Emperor, Ace of Wands reversed, okay, and this formidable, but nevertheless defeatable energy around you. King of Pentacles reversed, Eight of Wands reversed, the King of Wands, okay, yeah, narcissism. There's something like narcissism involved in this. There's some energy like that. So, over here, these people will really help you work out a strategy, and you do need a kind of strategy. They also want to bring you back to your own power. So that they help you gain your power and understand your power. And also how to temper it so that it doesn't go overboard. Like they have a very good strategy for how to deal with this. So I think listen to them. You know, there are people who actually have dealt with some of this before, and they can help you. They can help you bring you to power, but not to the point that you become the thing you despise. I mean, you don't become another version of this to defeat this. It's not necessary. What this is saying is that the rule of this energy is meant to fall. It's meant to stop, but it has been there for a long time in your life, and it has impeded your progress, and it's been about ego. But you're meant to, again, if you can kind of like open that energy up and find, the Emperor will gazump the King of Wands. So this is a failing energy and an egotistical energy, but you just need to recognize it so it doesn't. Now, if this is a lover, and it could be for some, if it's not a parent or some form of nurturing or manager or something like that, it could be a lover. And if it's a lover, they're trying to control you, but their power will lessen as soon as you come into your own. Very tricky situation, but you have what you need to do it. The issue for you, of course, and for all of us, is when we're stepping into our mythological power, is that we also have to step into the moral ambiguity that we may face in using that power. So let's see just a little bit about what moral ambiguity you have to face in using your power, pile 3. Queen of Swords reversed, Ace of Cups reversed, Page of Pentacles. Okay. This is why I'm saying one of the things that's going to temper you over here, one of the things that your friends or whatever will help you with, I think, is giving you a strategy so that you don't become what you've been through, because there's been a really highly critical, controlling energy. So you have to make sure that you don't become the thing that you're fighting with. So that's something to be aware of. You also have to protect your heart. Like it's almost like at its worst, and it's understandable you would do this, so I don't mean this as a criticism, but at its worst, when you really realise this, you might want to kind of really give back in kind and break the heart of the other person. But it's like that's the moral ambiguity for you. It's like you're meant to be working out what you want to create, and you don't want to create yourself like this person. You know, you need to create yourself in joy and in creative truth and in all those sort of things, not in a replication of that. But whatever this is, you have every right to be really upset about it, and it would be very easy to try and just almost have vengeance. But this is not what you're meant to do with your power. That's where it gets morally ambiguous. Okay, let's get you some spiritual guides to help you with this, because this is significant, I have to say. Very personal. So the first spirit guide we get is Guru Ram Dass, humility, spiritual practice, elevation. Yeah, it's sort of like the way to do this is not to, as I say, not to become what has happened to you. And it's to know your power, but see it in joy and in love and self-actualization, not in sort of something where you have to become the new tyrant. And I don't think you really would, but it's perfectly natural that you might be drawn towards this. And remember, I'm a Scorpio, so I understand how natural that would be. But the Spirit is saying that's where you wouldn't be getting all that you could from coming into who you're meant to be. And we have Merlin alchemy, manifestation, magician. Understand you are very powerful on this level. And if you remember that, Merlin dealt with some morally ambiguous situations, I have to say, but ultimately, tilted towards the good. And I think that's what this is saying. Like, if you kind of connect it to your spiritual practice, your power will only grow and it will go in the right direction. You can avoid the sort of morally ambiguous traps that we can have. Okay, we also need to balance our energy. So I thought I'd sort of see with chakra energy what either needs to be balanced or what you can leverage that is balanced in dealing with this situation, pile 3. So firstly, we have the solar plexus. Overactive. I do get hyperactive. Okay, so I actually don't think, it's interesting. I think that might be you thinking it's too much. I actually think it is important for you to get more and more kind of active and do things. I think you might have been told you get too hyperactive. So I think maybe if there's things here where things seem underactive, you need to kind of, or overactive, think about, is that actually true or is this what you've been told? Okay, for the second one, we have sacral chakra. Balanced. I feel like I radiate warmth. Yeah, and I think you do. It's you can do it even more, and this is why your friends are really drawn to you. So don't let them tell you that you don't. So that's good. You kind of do know that you're a warm person. You do know that you mean the best. And the third eye chakra, overactive. I see and can have mental fog. Okay, I think you have, because of like this Persephone and Demeter connection there, you probably have a very strong psychic link to this person and probably pretty strong karmic link. So don't let them overwhelm you. You may want to have some boundaries around their energy or whatever, because I think they get in and they confuse you. So that's something to be aware of. All right, let's have a look at some astrology energy. We're going to look at a planetary pairing that says more about your power, your friends, and your competitors. So for you, Mercury and Uranus. Okay, yeah. You are about change and about the new and bringing forward the new, and you're very smart. This is why you kind of connect very well with these friends. There's the very strong strategic energy that you have as well as them. You communicate very well too, and you can communicate when necessary for change. So what I like about that is once that's sort of worked out, you work out what you want to do, it's kind of like you could say enough is enough to those people, and it would have a force to it once you've defined what you really want. And if you have to break away from something so that you can be yourself or be with the one you love, you'll be able to articulate it. Okay, so around your friends, the energy they manifest, Moon and Neptune. So they're very empathic, they're very caring, they're very idealistic. And they're about the self-actualization. That was what we were showing, not about kind of, the material outcomes or the competition. They're really in their heart, their emotions, they're idealistic, and therefore, they would want to be a soothing energy for you. So that's good. But they're smart too. They connect with you with the Seven of Swords here. Or they bring out your strategy. And the energy that is manifesting around this person, plus, anybody else that might try and control you over time. Sun and Moon. Okay, all right. So this is complicated. For some of you, it is a lover, I've got to say. So for some of you, the Demeter thing, maybe there was sort of some sort of parental relationship in a previous life. For some of you, this is a lover. And it may feel like it's sort of like a twin flame or something like that. So I would be saying, if you feel that, it probably isn't. It's probably not true. And maybe what your friends are going to be able to do is break through the illusion, because although this is something, I think this is what they can make people feel. They can make people feel with judgment or whatever that they know. And then it can make, not Aphrodite, sorry, what was judgment, another one, it's Aphrodite. They could make you feel it's about love. They could make you feel what they're doing is loving. They could make you feel that this is one, but like this is one of those sort of situations where the toxicity is not a sign that this is something that needs to be healed. This is something else going on. So if you are feeling about that, I would really strongly say, really, really second guess that, because even if it is, it might be in this current life or at the moment, you can't engage because they're not working on that kind of level. They're working on a controlling level. But what also happens is they can make people think They love, make people think it's coming from the right place. And I think the thing here is, and what your friends could help is what are you really feeling? What's the truth of what you're feeling? Because there's an illusion here. So if you were around a lover or a parent or something and they said, I love you, well, they make you feel awful. Oh, I love you. I'm doing this because I love you. I'm doing this to help you. Yes, it feels like a criticism, but it's actually to help you. Your friends will help you see through that because they've been through something similar. And your own intuition, if you allow yourself, but it's hurtful. It's hurtful to see it. That's why you're kind of suppressing your heart energy and your creativity and who you are. But this is something really to break through, because it's not what it appears to be. And it's interesting with Merlin, they appear to be alchemical, they appear to be a magician, but it's actually you. It's actually you, pile 3. So, okay, interesting. Tricky, feeling really kind of overwhelmed by this energy, but I do have faith that you can do it, and I think particularly with your friends you can do it, but that's a very tricky energy. So let's just finish off with a couple of colour goddess cards for the sort of last advice Spirit can give you around dealing with this. You do have the power. This is your mythological power. This is you at your apotheosis of your power, but it is a formidable person and they want to be the most powerful. So firstly we get sepia, nostalgia, reminiscence, reverie. Think back and remember. There's things. This is right back to childhood for most of you, or to past lives. There's something in the past that can help you understand this. And sienna, plans, preparation, training. Then make the plans to do something material. Because as I say, they're getting in the way of that. Make your plans. Put some of this into the past just as a learning. Make your plans moving forward. The more that you do something that's practical and move forward and make those decisions for yourself, the better. So it's a tricky energy, but it's only happening because of this power. This person would only do it to someone who threatened their power in some way. So take it as an indication, take it as a backhand compliment, but be aware of the dynamics, because it's very emotionally manipulative energy around this, but you have really good friends and really good support as well. So I hope that resonated for you. I hope you enjoyed it. It's probably not the most enjoyable message, but I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.